Good morning. My name is Alexi Bailey, and I'm your host. And this is the Tell It Like It Is podcast. Today, I have a very special guest, Niza Erickson.
Hello, everyone.
Hi, Niza. Thank you for joining me.
What is going on with this thing? It got disconnected.
I can see you and I can hear you.
Okay, perfect. I cannot see or do anything in here, but let me see. Something happened, but I don't know what's going on. Let's see. I think it's fine. Yes, I'm so sorry. Something happened with the computer, but here I am.
That's okay. So I'm going to jump right in. You have a podcast, Instagram show called My Cafecito and My 2 Cents.
Yes. It's more like a page in Instagram. It's mi cafecito in Spanish and my 2 cents. That part is in English. You are right.
I mean, so it's basically you're drinking coffee and you're sharing your thoughts.
Exactly. That's how I started. And I'm glad that you can see that, because a lot of people, even the people that follow me that lives here in the United States, they don't understand the whole concept. I know they know the phrase of my 2 cents, but they don't understand why I have to give my thoughts or because I normally talk about X topic. And then I say what I feel about it. And a lot of people say, but why are you saying? Because you're asking for opinions. And I said, because it's my 2 cents. So I need to say what I feel about the topic or what I think. And then I ask for opinions as well. But yes, that's exactly how it is. And now it's getting a little bit of everything. I'm trying to be an Instagrammer, blogger, whatever it's called. And I share a little bit of my life in general, things that I do every day, things that happen to me. But the original idea is that I talk about XY topic and then I give my opinion and then I ask for people to say what they think about it as well.
Well, I think you have a little echo. And you have your coffee this morning.
Uh-huh.
What do you
my
drink?
cafecito now, my 2 cents.
What do you drink?
Normally it's a mocha coffee. I'm sure you have seen one of those coffee makers in your house.
Yeah, of course.
So we call it greca, but I think it's called mocha, and that's the type of coffee that I drink. And I like it black and with no sugar.
All right. So what have you been talking about on your show?
Oh my God, everything and anything.
What has gotten the most traction, reactions?
Oh, different topics, but normally when it has to come with men, like when I start criticizing what men do to women or the type of things, type of men out there, normally that's what it gets more attention, because the majority of my followers are women, and for whatever reason, we like to complain about men. So, in general,
men are terrible.
Not all of them. But yes.
I think you have a little bit of echo on your, maybe turn it down a little bit.
All right, let's see, because I don't hear anything and I need to use my glasses to look over there. But let me see. Maybe it is too loud. Can you hear me well now?
Yeah,
or better?
I can hear you, but I think when the sound, it bounces back into the speaker. I hear.
Yeah, maybe because the house is empty. Like there's not many people in here now. I don't know. Sorry.
It's okay. We'll figure it out. We'll be fine. I'm hearing you fine. Just a little echo.
I hope the recording is good though.
Yeah. All right. So we're Dominican, from the Dominican Republic.
Born and raised there.
How old were you when you moved here?
19 years old.
Oh, wow. So you came after high school?
I came after, I already had like 2 years in college when I came.
So what did you do when you came here? What was your first
Well, I came and to get married, basically. I came and got married and stopped going to school, have a child, and then went back to school. But basically, that's sort of the reason I came to the United States.
Okay. So you knew him from DR?
I met him here previously, obviously, but not from DR.
You met him before you came, before 19 when you moved here.
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
Got it. Got it. You came to visit, you met an American. Where's he from?
He's a half Dominican and half Puerto Rican.
Okay.
It was my first husband, not my actual husband.
Right. So you came here on a visit. Where's your family live when you came to visit?
All over. I have people live in Manhattan, the Bronx, Brooklyn, different around the city.
You came to visit, you met him, fell in love, you guys were talking on the phone.
Sort of, yes.
And got married, had a kid. Did you stay at home? Did you stay at home for a long time? Did you stay at home for a long time?
I did. Well, the marriage wasn't that long, so we didn't last long. But while I was married with him, I stayed home. Most of the part. I remember I started working actually. I don't know. Well, maybe you're too young and you don't know the store, but there was this store called Fava.
Fava, okay.
It's a shoe store, just like Payless, but
Okay.
it was called Fava. I remember my last year being married with him. I was working at that store.
How long were you married?
Maybe 5 years or so, around 5 years, more or less 5 years. Yes.
So how do you summarize that? I mean, your 2 cents, like.
I don't want to say it was a mistake because I have a child and definitely that, but we were too young and we still didn't know each other enough. So I think the fact that everybody was in a different country and having a relationship like that is not the best way to get to know people. But I don't know, an experience. Let's call it an experience, which I learned a lot from.
So much of what I do on my show is I give the person a chance to talk about the way they see things, right? And I think the beauty of our experience is that all of us kind of go through the same things. And
in general.
Yeah, exactly. And, young love, that's like, you don't have to explain that to anyone. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think you're right about that.
Right. So that's the thing that has really like captivates me, and I try to bring that into the show, is that everyone's like, oh, this person's so different, or this person's that. And I really just, when you start talking to people, you're like, I can relate to that. I was in love at teenage love kind of thing. Like, I can immediately imagine your parents not being on board, saying, you know what I mean? Like, we all kind of go through it. So I think the more we can, I use the platform to kind of talk about the things and make connections and those things, and when you have a kid, no one, most good parents don't regret their kids. So it's like, it's like a part of it was meant to be, and you learn and you grow and you learn to forgive yourself and be open, and you take that into your future relationships.
Definitely. And it makes you a better person because you learn so much. And of course.
Was it a daughter you had?
What is it?
Was it a daughter you had?
A daughter. She's 28 now.
That's beautiful. So my oldest is 16, and like, you grow up with your kids.
Definitely. Oh my God. And you learn with them because talking about kids, there's not a manual that tells you how to do things. So you have to learn in the process.
Exactly. So many people are So you might have said like, oh, I was going through this, you know, it was a different time. But now there's someone now who's 19, who just had a kid, who married someone they barely knew. And it's like, they're going through it. You know what I mean? And so life is like repeating itself, and just like, that's why I do this. You know, I try to make the bigger connections, but it's amazing to talk to one person and then you go to a completely different side of the world, talk to someone else, and it was like the same exact thing. And you know, that kind of thing. So the idea is
Especially
that,
when it comes to love.
right, and we all kind of grow, and my hope is that we can kind of, for some reason we don't take advice well.
Especially when you're young. Yeah.
Exactly. You know, again, I have a 16-year-old and I see him like making mistake, and I'm like, no, don't do this, don't do this. And he's like, you don't understand, you know?
Mhm.
And I think a part of life is about learning for yourself.
Oh, definitely. It doesn't matter. I mean, obviously, as parents, we don't want them to make the same mistakes we made, but they're not going to listen, and they have to. That's the only way they're going to learn. So we have to let them go, sadly.
But I think that's the hardest part of being a parent. You
I
know,
agree.
you're watching your kid make a mistake and you're like, please, please, no, don't do this, or do it this way, or I understand you. And they're like, psh.
Yeah. And then when they come back, and you know they're going to come back, telling you exactly what you told them, not what to do. And then you still have to advise them. I'm like, yes, I understand. And you cannot say, I told you so, because then it makes you a bad parent too. So, yeah.
So much. You know, when I first had kids, I thought I had a whole list of all the things I was gonna teach my kid, and this is how it's gonna go. And so much of actually having kids be like, no, you throw that plan out the window. You know, it's completely not what you expect. And I still try to teach him those things and give him those things, but you know, it having kids also, they flourish in your weakness.
Mhm. Oh
So
my God. Yeah. But I believe that the best way, and obviously after my kids are all grown up, 28, 25, and 23. So at this point, you kind of like, okay, I believe that the best way to teach them something is with your actions, the way you conduct yourself, the things that you do. Because even though when we think they're not looking, they are, and they watch everything you do. And then they come back at you and say, well, I noticed that you did this way. And you realize, oh my God, they were watching all the time. So I think with the way we conduct ourselves, the way we do things, especially I believe it, especially with happiness, when you show them that you are happy together or whatever you do and you are happy about that, they can learn happiness from you. They know that happiness exists, and it goes with everything else. Like they see you doing things in a certain way, even though they disagree sometimes. But then later on, when they grow older, they realize that that's the right way to do it, or maybe that's not the way to do it the way my parents did it. So I'm going to adjust a couple of things, and and I think it's the best way. Just teach them with your example. So, and I'm sure you've been doing a lot of that too.
I try, you know, I tell my son, clean your room. And he's like, well, your room's not clean.
Thank you.
You know, I say, you know, don't eat on the couch. Well, you eat on the couch. And I'm like, well, when I eat on the couch, I clean up after myself. And so that part, like you said, I'm sure he sees it, but he doesn't, all he sees is me eating on the couch. And then
Mhm.
he eats on the couch and leaves a mess. And then the fight just ensues from there.
Yep. That's exactly why I told you it's you don't realize, but they are there because they are the biggest judges that we have. And they're going to go back at you. And then you realize, but if I don't want him to eat in the couch, I should not eat in the couch either. So let's just sit together at the table. But of course, we are adults, we think we can make things different, but we forgot that we have people watching us.
So that's the thing. Kids, they challenge us. You know, your friends, your parents, they're not in the house like seeing you, you know, they don't know you intimately the way that kids do. Kids
Mhm.
get to see you first thing in the morning, last thing at night. You know, your friend sees you when you tell them or when, you
Mhm.
know, but kids, they really like, they do watch you. Sometimes,
Our friend sees us at our best. We
exactly.
dress up nice, we go have fun, we're celebrating something in most of the cases. And our kids see us in going through everything because we are humans too, obviously. So they see everything. They see when we are in a bad mood, when we're having a hard time, when we arguing with significant other, like everything. When we're happy, when we're not, when we stress out. So yes, and if they are the kind of kids that tells everything, you can imagine they go and tell people, but that's not true, you were crying last night or something like that.
Right, right.
Uh,
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's the interesting part, you know, in a little while they begin to you know, like, there's a point when they're 2 years old and they're not really knowing what's going on. And little by little, they're picking up. And when you have a 4-year-old asking you why, you know, it starts to put you in the hot seat, so to speak.
yeah. Most of the
Having
time. Yep.
having kids keeps you honest for sure.
Oh, definitely. You have to be or you are in trouble. Yeah.
So you're a teacher, is that right?
I am, but I haven't been working for almost 3 years now. 2 years actually. Yeah.
How long did you teach?
About 15 years.
And you taught in the New York City public school?
I did taught in New York and Florida, and out of New York as well. I taught in outskirts of New York.
Okay. And you taught Spanish, right?
Yes, I am a Spanish teacher.
That's
Yeah.
nice. That's nice.
Uh, Normally, well, high school most of the time. When I was in Florida, I taught a couple of classes in different colleges in Florida. When I
Okay.
came back to New York, I taught high school, but then my last few years, I taught middle school for the first time. And it was a challenge.
How is it actually learning the language like in school? Does that actually happen? Like you're giving them the fundamentals, right? Like to actually say I learned the language. Like is that possible?
It is if you want to. And I'm going to tell you why. I had from my career a lot of colleagues that they are non-Spanish speakers. They are from so many other countries that they don't speak Spanish, and they speak Spanish so well. And every time I ask them, "Oh my God, how do you learn Spanish so well?" And they say, and oh, how do you become a Spanish teacher? They say, "Well, I fell in love when I was in high school. I fell in love with it when I was in middle school." And from there, but those are, I'm not going to say the exception, but sort of, because if you want to learn, you will make an effort. And it requires a lot of time and dedication because you have to start watching TV in Spanish, you listen to music in Spanish, you have to speak Spanish constantly so you can practice because it's not easy. Um, I learned English, so I'm still learning after 30 years in this country. I feel like I'm still learning so much. So it's hard, but you have to kind of immerse yourself, but it's possible. Actually, one of the last high school that I worked in New York City is one of the, what is it called? It's not independent, a specialized high school in New York. I'm sure you probably heard about Bronx Science. There's a lot, Stuyvesant. I work in one called High School of American Studies.
Okay.
It's one of the specialized high school in New York City. You need to take a test in order to, probably you heard about it, in order to be part of the school. And it's very hard to be accepted. You have to pass the test, and it's very demanding. So it's really, but most of the kids there, they want to be there. They're very smart. They want to learn. So Spanish is not an exception. Most of the kids there, they want to learn Spanish. And we had so many students that get there. Maybe they took Spanish in middle school. Some of them didn't even take it in middle school. They start just Spanish 1 in ninth grade, and they leave speaking Spanish. But they dedicated students. They want to learn the language. Some of them also have money and had money or have money, and the parents send them for the summer to Spanish speaking country, and that makes all the difference. If you immerse yourself for 1 month or 2 months in Spanish speaking country, everything you learn, at least 1 year of high school Spanish, and then you go and practice all of that. Oh my God, you become really fluent because you practice all that theory that you have. So
Right.
it is possible, to answer your question.
So much of, if you know my story, I'm married to a Dominican who's fluent in Spanish, and I get in a lot of trouble because my Spanish is not there. I have I haven't immersed. I think I'm immersed on some level, but it just hasn't clicked. And I'm still committed to learning Spanish, and I have to do a lot more work on that.
Well, I'm going to tell you a secret. It's hard, and my kids don't speak Spanish very well. And my husband speaks Spanish. He is from the Dominican Republic as well. And myself, and I am a Spanish teacher, but it's really hard. The only way you can do this is basically speaking Spanish all the time at home. For example, it would be my husband would speak English at home, and then I speak Spanish, or both of us, because once they go to school, they can learn English. So if we kept it just both of us speaking Spanish at home, just Spanish, they would be more fluent. They understand a lot, and I'm sure you are at the same level as my son, which is the youngest and is the one I say they speak the least, but he understand a lot. But
Right.
he speak and he tries, but he has a problem with the conjugations of the verbs and stuff like that. But he understand everything that has to do around the house, especially with food, with cleaning his room, certain chores and stuff like that. He's really fluent at all of that. But his favorite thing, what he dominates the most is the food, what he wants to eat and how to act certain things. But it's hard because you have to dedicate yourself. Like in your case, your wife, which is my friend, she should be speaking Spanish to you all the time, and the kids. That way you all will be fully bilingual. But it is hard because the minute they don't understand you, you just jump to English because it requires time. And so I really understand you, and I know it's hard. You can go and take classes somewhere else and then go home and practice, because you definitely can practice at home because you have someone that can respond in Spanish. But it's not that easy. I know.
I'm not giving up. I think that would be a big turning point for me.
Let's just go and join a Spanish class in, I don't know, a college nearby, a university or something, and then go home and practice with everyone and try to say everything in Spanish, and then go to the Dominican Republic and spend 2 months there by yourself. I guarantee you, when you get back, you'll be speaking fluent Spanish.
So, what was your childhood like?
Oh my God, amazing. I love it. I was very happy, very much spoiled too. I was the only girl in my house. There were four of us, and I was the only girl. But my dad was a little bit of a Casanova, and he had many kids, one here, two here, three there, and I'm still the only girl.
Oh
So you
wow.
can imagine how spoiled I was. My dad really spoiled me, and my mother as well. Like everything I wanted to do, I wanted to go take English classes. Go ahead. I want to go take ballet. I took ballet classes for many years. I danced ballet for about, I don't know, 10 or 12 years.
Wow.
Then modeling. Then I dropped ballet because I want to go to modeling classes. So I went to modeling classes. Um, oh my God, I'm very happy. I have to say, I have many friends. I have so much fun. I was member of a couple of country club there as well. So you go there you don't even need to go with your parents, because it's kind of everybody knows everybody and it's family oriented. So you go there, you have so much fun, the pool, the friends, like it was really nice. And I have a lot of cousins too. So I spent a lot of time with my cousins, and it was really nice. I think everybody should have cousins. So it was happy. if I have the opportunity to, like reborn, and they ask me where you want to born again, I definitely want to go back to my own house and in the Dominican Republic. I won't change anything. It was very good.
You said it was the four of you that lived in your house.
In my house, we're four. Yes, four kids.
So three brothers.
Yes.
Okay. All right. That's interesting.
You know what? A lot of people, it's funny you say it's interesting. It is. But I have to say, a lot of people might think, oh my God, they will be on top of you. They will be judging, or they won't allow you to do certain things. I have to say, my brothers were great. They were amazing. We were really partners in crime. And there was never a point where they said, oh, you cannot do that because you're a girl, or whatever. Well, I'm going to tell mom, or I'm going to tell that. No, we were like the way we're supposed to be, brothers and a sister. And yes, they protect me, but never say you're not supposed to do that. And they were always playing with me, and I was playing with them. So I have to say it was easy. And I saw some friends that only have one brother, girlfriends that they have only one brother. Oh my God. And they want to control everything they did. And it didn't happen with me. My brothers were really, I don't know, I don't know. I don't know how to say it. They were there with me. They were on board. Anything I want, and we were.
What was the birth order? Were you the oldest or?
I was the second. I have an oldest one, and then me, and then two youngers.
So were you like the mother or taking care of your brothers?
Not much. Just my youngest one. My youngest brother is 10 years younger than me.
Mm-hmm.
And him, I have to take care of him a couple of times. And I hate it at the time, I have to say. Sometimes when my mother asks me to do certain things for him, especially because if I was playing, I don't want to, of course, do things for him. But I have to say, it's my favorite. Everybody knows he's like my son. I adore him. Oh my God, it's like I think he's almost at the same level. My son sometimes says, "I think you love Theo more than me," because he knows I am crazy about him. And with the other two, it was good, and I love them obviously. But with that one living at home, the youngest one, it was like my son.
What is he doing now?
Living la vida loca. It's not a good expression to express. He has two kids. He's not married, to different child with two different women. He's a little bit more like my dad. What can I tell you?
He in DR, is he here?
He's here in the United States.
I don't know. DR is an interesting place, isn't it?
It is.
It's very,
Oh my God.
it's very interesting. Now,
It's a culture of his own.
I don't know if you know, I'm from Jamaica, right?
Yes, I know.
And I think every place has its unique culture. And one thing I can tell anybody about Dominican Republic is that there's a party vibe. It can be
Yes.
like Tuesday, not even the summer. I'm usually there in the summer, but I get the sense that it could be a Tuesday and it doesn't even have to be anybody's birthday. And it's like, the music's playing, there's
Yep.
a big pot of food and there's like 15 people in your house and they're sitting around, there's beers, and it's just like
And there's dancing too. We love to dance.
dancing and you're like, well, are we celebrating? Like, no, this is just, another day, and it's just such a good vibe all the time.
Yep. I think we are way too happy people. We celebrate everything. Like, let me give you an example. A few days ago, there was a hurricane and people were supposed to be home. But no, people were out, like you say, music, drinking, always drinking, and playing, either playing dominoes on the street, getting ready for the hurricane and protecting windows, whatever. No, we are partying because we have the day off. We don't need to have the day off to party and celebrate.
Right.
But the fact that you have the day off, it's just more hours for you to party. So you have the whole day now. So who cares about the hurricane? It's raining. Who cares? It's raining. It's rain. Yeah, we celebrate everything without a reason to celebrate. And I think that's what I love the most about my country, like how happy we
That's
are.
one of that's one of my motivations to learn Spanish is I just want to be able to partake in that culture more.
Um, that's true. I understand. Yeah.
And you know, my wife, she gets ups, you know. So here's the thing, right? When it comes to you know, the music and the food, I've been living that life now for 18 years. So, you know, every weekend, every birthday party, every baby shower, Christmas, I'm fully immersed in that, the
Yeah.
music and I feel Dominican. You know, I don't even have
Yeah.
to, you
And I
know,
seen your moves. You have the moves.
thank you, you know, and with my boys, I'm, you know, when the music comes on, I'm like, that's your music.
Yeah.
And you know how kids are, you know, they want to look at their parents funny and like, you know,
We
uh,
don't know what we're doing, remember? We don't know how to have fun. We don't know
yeah,
anything.
exactly.
We
And
are
I'm like, no, this is
innocent.
your music. You have to, you know,
Yeah.
and little by little, I'm sure they're getting it. And if nothing else, I definitely want them to be a part of that life. And you know, I wish their Spanish was better also.
Mhm. You know the secret now. It has to be one of you speaking Spanish at home all the time.
Yeah, we just moved to DR or something.
That too. Yeah. I don't want to get to that level though. As much as I love my country, I don't want to move back.
Um, did you do the Catholic thing, all of the stages, and did you do that? That's
Yes,
that's very big in DR, right?
it was, I think it was bigger when I was growing up. Well, religious is important, but Catholicism, it was more important when I was growing up. Now we have so many different religions. Um, Jehovah Witness are big in Dominican Republic. Christians, well, if you believe in Christ, you're Christian, but it's more like what is it?
Protestant.
It's exactly. So we have many different religions. I am still Catholic, but we have so many. And yes, I did all the sacraments. Baptisms, first communion, confirmation, and the last one, which was my marriage by church. So I just finalized my last of the sacrament. Well, actually, I'm missing one. And I don't know if you're familiar, but it's when you die. It's basically the last one. When you die, it's like they bless you, whatever, and it's kind of your final, final step, your final thing in the Catholicism. But yes, and I one of the reasons I want to get married by church was because I was missing that part, and yes, even if I go to church, I still cannot be part of the communion because I wasn't married by church. So I was in sort of a sin because I was married or living with someone without being Catholic marriage, you know. So yes,
So so the first marriage you didn't do the Catholic
no,
marriage.
I was just married by went to City Hall and that was it.
And then the second one, where did you get married?
City Hall as well.
Okay. And then when did you did the by church? When did you do that?
2 months ago. Almost
Um,
2 months ago. Mhm.
so how long have you been married at that point?
Well, it's an interesting story. And my second marriage, it was with the same person as I did my third one. So we got married when I was 23. We have 2 kids. We got divorced, and we were divorced for about, I don't know. Well, we get separated for about 3 or 4, less than 4 years, and then we got back together. And we just got married this January. So we were together for about what? About 5 or 6 years after, got divorced, got back together, and then we got married by court or city hall. We went to city hall in January and we got married, and then we did it by church. But it becomes a little bit more interesting. My husband is not Catholic.
Mm.
So only I received that sacrament when I got married in July, because he used to be a Jehovah Witness, even though he is not anymore. his beliefs are really strong with Jehovah's Witness, and he didn't want to become a Catholic, and I respect that because I understand that, and I know him very well. I know that he would never do that. He has a strong beliefs on his religion or what he used to believe, or
Yeah, yeah.
and but it was kind enough to accept that I got married by a Catholic church and to stand up for me and be there. I really appreciate that very much. So I can get my sacrament, and he was there for me.
I think that's a beautiful love story.
It is. It is actually. Mhm.
So in the context of my 2 cents, how do you incorporate that into the show? Like your story, and how does that go?
I have to say I share everything with my and on my page. I talked about that like I told my story. I say we were married and we got back together. So it's possible. It happens because I know some people separate and they think that's it. It's the end of it. So I share that. I even share my wedding live and on my page, and I have so many viewers. People love, and especially because they knew a little bit of the background. They knew that we were married, we got divorced, and then we got back together. Um, they love that. Oh God, I forgot something I want to tell you. Oh, I lost a train of thoughts. Anyways, if it comes back, I tell you. But anyways, that people love to see that there's a love story
Right.
that I remember now. And I think the way we could do that is because we have a really good relationship after we got divorced. Not only because of the kids, but I think because we respect each other. Because if we were have a really difficult relationship with a lot of fights and stuff, there was no way we could get back together. And so it worked because of that. And I guess we still were in love, or there was something in there that we reconnect, and here we are, happily married now again.
I I I was raised by a single mom, and I try to understand what women go through. And obviously, I'm a guy, and I
Hmm.
have, I see the world as a guy, and so I empathize a lot or sympathize a lot with women and the things that they go through. I think that there's a lot of pressure for women, to get married or to look a certain way. And like, there's a lot of pressure on women, would you say?
Especially in the Dominican Republic, I feel, because here we have more freedom here, and I think this is one of the reasons I love the United States. We're more open-minded here, and we have, I don't know, we see things different. But yes, and my parents were divorced too, so basically, even though my dad was present all the time, we were raised by my mother basically, and yes, it was a big pressure, definitely it is. And again, thinking going back to the Dominican Republic, because you have to do the things the right way. There's certain things you have to do and you're expected to do as a woman that is not required for the men. And so I saw that through my mom's eyes. But one thing though, I say, growing up with my mother, and my mother is a great woman, but for her, the fact that she has only one man, like it was my dad, and she's 70 something years old, but she's so proud that she only had one man. It was my dad. I say, oh my God, I'm gonna be the total opposite of my mother. I cannot just stay with one man. Why? Why I'm going to, if doesn't work with one, I'll get divorced and I get someone else, because I still, even when I got divorced twice, I believe in marriage and I believe in love. So I said, I'm gonna go forth. I don't care. Elizabeth Taylor had so many marriages. I can have so many too. I can follow her steps too, as long as you're happy. And that's one of the things I said. I said, I'm not going to be like my mother. It doesn't matter. I want to be happy, because I strongly believe that if you're not happy, you're not gonna make people around you happy, your husband or your kids. So you need to be happy. And sadly, I mean, I have to get divorced, but I consider myself very happy. And I think it has to do with the decisions and maybe not following those steps of my mother, being proud of just being with one man. no way.
So you got married the first, second, and third time, and then you remarried your second husband.
Exactly. The third one was my second husband. Yes. It makes sense.
Yeah. So you were only married to two people.
Exactly.
Got
Mhm.
it. Got it. Um, yeah, I'm so there's I think it's kind of like the boys, they go out and play and the girls have to stay and clean the house and take care of your little brother, and you just want to be treated equally, like whatever the men have to do the women should have to do, kind of thing.
Mhm. Oh, yes. I have to say though, it didn't happen much to me. Like I said before, I was very spoiled, so I didn't do anything around the house. Like I was always doing something, but outside, like socializing, or like I say, I go to the pool, I go to these tennis classes, or whatever. Like I have so many other things to do, so I wasn't raised to do things around the house. Either my mother have help, or she does it because she get desperate because I didn't do it the right way, which was a good thing though. And then when I got married, it was like, oh my God, you have to do all of these. And I didn't know how to do anything. Like then I got married and I was in actually prepared to do all of that. And I didn't stay in the Dominican Republic when you can have someone that, help around the house.
Right.
I came to New York and then we were bored. Like my husband was working and I was home with my daughter, and I have to cook, clean, do the laundry, all of that I was never supposed to because I didn't even know how to do any of that. And it was a big shock for me. I have a story actually with your wife. I remember one of the few times my mother said, if you don't do this, you're not going to go out to play. And I have, you know what yuca is, right?
Yeah,
It's
yeah, of course.
in English, you call it, I think it's cassava,
Yeah.
which is like a vegetable, a root vegetable that we have in the Dominican Republic. And my mother said, so you have to peel them and you have to put it to boil because that's for dinner if you want to go out. And I was like, oh my God. And I don't even, it would take me forever. And I started doing it, but I didn't know how to do it. And I started doing it like you do platanos or something. And your wife was there and she was waiting for me because we wanted to go out, and she did it for me. And she took that, and I honestly was impressed because she was younger than me, way younger than me, and she did it like in 2 minutes. Like she peeled all of them. I guess she knew how to do it, and I didn't. Oh my God, I was like, oh my God. And then we went out to play. It was such a good experience, and I always remember that because I always was out with her playing, but I didn't know that she had experience in the kitchen doing things like that. So she did it for me and we went out. And after that, I said, I need to learn how to do this. And, with time, obviously, once you get married and you have to do it yourself, you made a lot of mistakes, but eventually you learn. But it was a shock because I wasn't the typical girl that you need to learn how to, sew, or you have to learn how to clean these or do these or cook or iron. None of that. My mother didn't teach me any of that. So I have to learn on my own. And I wish, and I did it with my girls, like I taught them a little bit. And I said, I'm not training you to be a maid of your husband or a maid in your house or anything like that. But it's good to know something. Even when you go to college, like if you are in college and you want to eat the food from home, if you know how to do it, then you know how to do it. You don't have to, suffer or struggle like me, like I did when I came to the United States. So,
So I think Dominican Republic is traditional in that way, where there's a strong emphasis on housemaking for women,
oh, yes. Yep.
right?
And I think still.
And I have to say, I think in traditional conservative places like Jamaica, the Caribbean, that's still a thing, and those values are still there. And I think in non-traditional um, places like America, that's starting to go away, and it's significantly almost gone. Where the women and the men, they have that same expectation of just you go to classes, you go to school, you learn those things, but there's not an emphasis on housemaking.
Oh, definitely. And my son, I have to say, He knows how to do a lot of things around the house. Um, Almost everything. He knows how to cook. And when he wanted to cook something that he doesn't know, he called me. How do I make this, mom? He loves Dominican food, so he likes to cook that. But I think, and again, that's why I say before I love the United States because of that, and because I know it's not up there yet, but at least we're trying to have same be at the same level. Let's say, like men and women are equally on a way. You raise them. Well, I mean, if you do it at home, if you raise your children to be equal at a woman, like a woman, you can both can do the same things at home. Like both can cook, both can clean. And my husband do a lot of cooking in the house, I have to say here. So I like that. The fact that we both can be equally, it's not you a woman, you have to be in the kitchen. No, I can be in the kitchen while my husband is cooking with a glass of wine, looking at him. that's my kind of equally in the kitchen, but you know what I mean.
Where did you go to college?
I went to Lehman College, one of the City University of New York. I did
And
my
you wanted to study teaching?
no. I wanted to. You remember that I said before that I went 2 years of school in college in Dominican Republic.
Right.
I like communications, so I wanted to be an anchored or something like that. It has to do with TV and talking, whatever, something with that, and that's what I wanted to do. But when I went back to school here in the United States, and then I have a child already, I realized that I want to be with them. I understand the importance of having mom or dad around, either one of them, because I honestly believe that if mom can stay, well, that's great. But if mom has to go to work and dad has to stay, that is even great. But at least one of them to stick around. So I did that. I stayed home with my kids for many years. And then when I went back to work, um, I first got a part-time so I can be with them. I dropped them at school and then picked them up at school. And then when finally I went full-time, at least we were together, the holidays, vacations, and so we were around the same time. And so I decided to become a teacher because of that, just to be around the kids more. And I chose Spanish because I said, oh my God, but I'm still learning English. I cannot teach any other subject. So the one that I feel really comfortable is with Spanish. So I'm going to take Spanish. So I took Spanish.
It's one thing to speak Spanish and it's another thing to teach it.
Definitely, especially with all the grammar.
Exactly. Exactly. Okay. All right. All of that makes sense. So what has been your experience in the New York City public school? You've seen New York City, you've done some teaching in Florida, and you've done some teaching outside of the New York City public school. How do you contrast those experiences?
Well, I can't, sadly. Well, I can contrast them, but not really using New York City, because even though I was in New York City public school system, remember I mentioned that I was in a specialized high school.
Right.
So I never thought in any other school, like regular schools. This was a specialized high school. And to summarize my experience in a specialized high school, my students, when they finish working, some kids finish before others. When my kids finish, they didn't grab a phone. They grabbed the New York Times. So I can compare that particular experience with any others because it will be unfair. These kids were, like I said, were really smart because they have to pass it's like an SAT test that they have to pass to enter to these schools. And they are definitely more into what they are doing. So I cannot compare them with any other schools, not even with the same public schools in New York City, because they have a different motivation. So I can't. I'm sorry. Not with
You went to Florida.
What was that?
But then you went to Florida.
Yes, I taught in Florida for about 8 years.
So what was that like?
I was in one of the schools. I taught in two schools in Florida. The last school that I was, it was a Title I. I don't know if you're familiar with the Title I. Title I schools are the one that require that it has 80% or more with free lunches. So the population of the school, it's not, economically advantage. You don't have too much advantage. But I have to say I love it. It was good. I don't know. And then a lot of the kids were Hispanic kids. The majority of them were Mexican. The school was placed in a migrant community, so a lot of the kids were migrant. Many of them come just half of the year to my school because the parents were moving, like they were working on the farms, and when they finish in Florida, they have to move to California or some other part of the country, and so sometimes we have the kids just half of the school year. Some of them you have the whole entire year, but it was a totally different population. But I love it. I connect with the kids a lot, even though I'm not Mexican or migrant. But the fact that they can speak Spanish, that I understand their parents, where they coming from, the language, and I love it. It was a great experience, I have to say. I felt that I was more needed there, and I can tell you a comparison with that. I started teaching in High School of American Studies in New York City after I came from Florida. So when I get there and I have these kids so independent and so smart, like I can ask those kids anything I need to know, and they tell me like that, and I'm like, oh my God, and I felt that I wasn't needed in that school. And I have to say that was a shock because these kids are so independent, so cultural aware. They are, oh my God, that you feel like I'm here to teach Spanish, but that's it. Like they don't need anything. When I was in Florida with the other kids, they need a mother, they need advice, they need, you know what I mean? Like you feel like you are a teacher, you are really needed, like you are a mother for them. For the other kids, you are a mentor, you there to, you know what I mean, fulfill something. And sometimes, you felt like, I don't know, like undervalued maybe. And I don't know if that's the right term, but they were good and I miss them so much. And honestly, but I don't know if like do you understand what I'm trying to say?
I know exactly what you're saying. So, I mean, let me put it into my words. I lived on the Upper West Side of Manhattan for almost 15 years, right? So it's basically like a private school kid, a kid who grew up reading his whole life. His parents are reading to him every single day, and he has no problems. The meals are there. He has tennis classes. He has
Thank
all these
you.
classes. And, when you come to teach him, he's already disciplined. He already has the motivation, and he just comes in and you teach Spanish. And when it's over, he leaves right away, no problem. And in Florida, you basically have people who are like, they're new to this country. You have to teach them to tie their shoe, teach them that you need a shirt like this, and teach them this is the notebook you need. And your parents, they need to go here and get this. And this is a job maybe your parents can use to help you. And you should be going to bed on time. And you'd start talking to them about all kinds of issues, and you're still explaining the country, and you're doing everything. You're not just a parent, you're not just a teacher, you're a social worker, you're a parent, you're the best friend, you're the doctor, you're like,
Exactly. Yep.
and every day you're not sure if the kid's hungry or if
Yep.
they're in danger, or did you sleep last night? And
Yes, and for example, I remember this particular situation with one of my students. He was taking AP Spanish. He was very good, and he wasn't planning to show up to the AP exam, which is basically the reason why you take AP class.
right.
And when I asked him, why are you not coming? Oh, I have a job interview. And I was like, can you just change that? Can you just go another time after? Oh, no, miss, it's important for me. And I said, I know a job is important for you, but the test is important for you too. You've been preparing for this the whole entire year. Oh, but I need this job. And the job is at McDonald's. And which is, I'm not criticizing that. I don't want anybody to get me wrong. It's just that I'm thinking, but education is more important. Or when I have so many kids that they were absent for 3 days, and I say, oh my God, are you okay? Where were you absent? No, I'm okay, miss. I was just taking care of my siblings because my parents have to work and one of them was sick or something like that. And you're like, again, but I understand that because I their parents didn't have anybody to babysit. So they have to leave the oldest kid. I understand that, but you want more for them. And then you used to that, doing that for so many years, advising the girls for prom, what to wear, sometimes buying tickets for prom for your kids, or buying a yearbook for your kids because he wants one and he can afford it, like all that kind of thing. And then you go to this school and these kids are all like, oh, I'm fine. And you're going to talk to them about paella. And I'm like, yeah, I know what paella is. I went to Spain last year. And then you're like, okay, you know what I mean? Things like that. But in the meantime, I was teaching in Florida to my other kids that they're like, my kids were surprised that I didn't eat tortilla every day. I'm like, no, I'm Dominican. We don't eat tortillas. Like, we eat Mexican food one day. Like when you go, oh, we're going to a Mexican restaurant, but it's not like my everyday. And they were like, are you for real? And yeah, what do you eat then? And then we have a Caribbean day, and I bring Dominican food and Mexican, I'm Puerto Rican, I'm sorry, and Cuban, and I explain all of that to them. And they love that, and they love trying my food. Sometimes they ask me, like, can you bring us your rice, that rice that you make with guandules, whatever, and they love that because they are used to something else. Meanwhile, you come to the city and then you're working in this school, and then these kids know all of that more than you. Sometimes they are the one telling you, oh, have you experienced this? I'm like, no, I never been there. So it's a cultural shock, even for an adult. So, but I enjoy both, I have to say. Yes, at the beginning, I have to say, I was a little sad. I was like, oh my God, these kids are so detached, because I was used to have the kids around you and asking you questions and wanted to be with you. And then when I get to that school, I didn't feel that. And I felt that. And I talked to some colleagues and they said, yes, it's going to happen. You're going to feel better next year if you get used to it. But these kids are very independent. They really don't need you that much. I have a story about that. I remember they asked me to be the club. What is it called? Oh my God, I even forgot that term. You basically are. I was the teacher of the club dance club in Florida.
Yeah,
so they asked me to be, but it's another word. I just forget, the chaperone. Yeah. But when I was doing it in Florida, I was more involved with the kids, with the decisions, with the dances, with the outfits, everything. When I was asked to be the chaperone of the dance club here in New York City, I wasn't doing anything. I was just sitting there grading my papers. And I was like, I feel like they didn't even ask me for an opinion, nothing. These kids got there prepared with everything. We're gonna wear this, we're gonna do this. This is the dance that we're doing. And I was just there babysitting. And it was a shock for me. I was like, okay, then I do my job and I get paid for this. And what can I do? And you get used to, obviously, because you say, okay, I'm getting paid for this. And in the meantime, I can be grading my papers or prepare my lessons for tomorrow. But the person I am, my personality is, I love to giving my 2 cents, my opinions. I want to be involved. And I wasn't asked anything. So you can imagine.
All right, let's take a brief break. Niza, we'll be back for part 2. Thank you for joining me so far. It's been great.
Thank you. Great.